Hello, welcome to the Anfield Review podcast. I'm Owen James. This is your Liverpool news update, guys. Could we be going to see another big spend in the summer? That seems to be the question. I think there are a number of positions that Liverpool do need to address in this summer window. Look, I think this squad, I think we can all admit, is nowhere near strong enough to really put a challenge in the league. I mean, if you compare, like I said, I've said in previous videos, the squad that Arsenal have got, the squad that Manchester City have got, even to some extent Aston Villa, they are they have more strength in depth. Even Manchester United, to some degree, have more strength in depth than Liverpool. We are severely lacking in the wingers positions. So no number 6 to back up Gravenberg. Right back has become an issue just to the fact the injury history of the pair of Bradley and Frimpong. Centre backs, obviously no strength in depth there. There is a lot of positions that do need to be looked at. And look, I think, we do need also to improve the number of homegrown players that we have at the club. There are very few English players currently in that Liverpool squad. So it's something we do need to address. Now, lots of stories this morning linking Liverpool to 2 English players in particular. Now, look, I'm not saying that this is definitely going to happen. I'm not saying that this is gospel. Look, I'm not pretending to be in the know. What I am saying is I'm giving you these stories. I'd love to know your thoughts on them. I'd love to know your opinions on them. That's why we talk about these things. Is to get your thoughts, your views, your opinions on this. Now we're going to start off with someone who, look, I don't think it would unite the fan base in terms of a player that we'd want to sign. I think when you talk about wingers, people talk about wanting, for instance, Michael Olise from Bayern Munich, who may or may not be a realistic target for Liverpool this summer. The latest name again to come back round, and it seems this is a name that persistently is linked with a move to Liverpool. Obviously, he is a boyhood Red. He is a Liverpool fan, despite the fact he did play for Everton. Is Anthony Gordon. And Anthony Gordon's having a good season for Newcastle, and he's certainly, he's an England international. He has the pace to play out wide. He's got the ability to go past a man. He scored goals in Europe this season. I'm not saying that Anthony Gordon is not a top-class winger. He is a good winger. He is a very, very good winger. World-class, maybe not, but still a quality player. The argument would be that he's a left-sided left winger. Is he better than Cody Gakpo? Well, at this present moment in time, yes, he is a whole lot better than Cody Gakpo. So, look, it's a difficult situation. It really is. When you look at this one with Anthony Gordon, and like I said, I've seen so many polls, 50-50 splits on this, on whether Gordon would be someone that Liverpool fans would want at the club. The story that has come out is this one. Liverpool are ready to offer €90 million for Newcastle's Anthony Gordon, according to reports. Reds have made signing Gordon, who is a boyhood Liverpool fan, their top target. This is reported in a number of sources this morning. Look, am I saying here that this is going to be an easy deal to do? Absolutely not. We know that Newcastle United will make this as difficult as possible for Liverpool to get done. €90 million, around £78.5 million for the winger. Look, you're going to have to pay somewhere between 75 and 80 million for him. I think, Newcastle will play hardball on this one. But, I think there is a kind of truth in it, despite what Gordon said the other day, that he may well want to move on. He may well want to find and have a new start somewhere else. And I think, look, as much as Newcastle United fans won't like this, Newcastle is realistically, it's a stepping stone club. That's what Newcastle United is. It's a stepping stone to one of the big clubs, to the Liverpools, to the Arsenals, to the Manchester Uniteds of this world. It is certainly not your end goal, is it, to play for Newcastle United? That is certainly not the kind of be-all and end-all for players. Now, in terms of Anthony Gordon's stats this season, his stats are pretty decent this season. UEFA Champions League, obviously slightly skewed by the 4 goals that he scored against Karabag. 9 appearances, 10 goals, 2 assists, 12 goal contributions in 9 games in the Champions League. Like I said, slightly skewed by the Karabag figures. Premier League, 21 appearances, 3 goals, 2 assists. FA Cup, 2 appearances, 1 goal, 1 assist. So overall this season, he's had 14 goals, 5 assists, and 19 goal contributions in 37, better than 1 in 2. Averages a goal every 164 minutes. Has played over 2,000 minutes for Newcastle United this season. Has missed games with injury, has missed games with suspension, and has at times struggled, I think, in a Newcastle team that have not been brilliant domestically this season. Look, In terms of bringing Gordon to Liverpool, like I said, I know it's one that will divide the fan base. He is that kind of divisive figure. Personally, I think this will be a good buy for Liverpool. I think, it's a homegrown player, a player who would give his all for the club, a player who is quick, he's tricky, he can go past the player, something we do seem to lack. And look, if Arne Slot was to stay next season, I'm not saying that he is, I'm not saying that he isn't. He likes to play with quick, tricky wingers, and Anthony Gordon is certainly that calibre of player. So he certainly would fit that type of player, and I think he would be a good asset for the club. Now, the other name that has been linked this morning is Elliot Anderson, who absolutely dominated Liverpool this weekend in that game on Sunday. Pretty much ran rings around our midfield until Dom Szoboszlai was moved into the midfield. Look, I mean, playing Dom Szoboszlai right back for me is just ridiculous. It is absolutely stupid of Slot to do that. But, Elliot Anderson is an all-round quality midfield player. He plays in that 6 role. He dominates the game. His recoveries are good. He gets his tackles in. He plays the ball out. He's metronomic and he kind of dominates that midfield. And, Liverpool seem to really lack that 6. Ryan Gravenberch has not been the Ryan Gravenberch of last season, has he? He has struggled this season in that 6 role. So someone like an Elliot Anderson coming in, I think, would really add to the squad. Now, look, getting Anderson won't be easy. There is an amount of competition for him. Manchester United also reportedly ready to put in a bid of 100 million for the Forest player. If Forest go down, it maybe you can get him for cheaper. I don't know, but he certainly is a player that I would love to see at Anfield. People can say, well, why would you want to go Man United? If Man United are in the Champions League next season, they certainly have that pull there. But Anderson would certainly add to this squad. He really, really genuinely would. His stats this season, obviously, not a lot of goal scoring and assisting, certainly. He's not that type of player. But 27 Premier League appearances, 1 goal, 2 assists, played over 2,000 minutes in the Premier League, Europa League. He's got European experience now, played 7 games, 1 assist, played over 428 minutes in the Europa League. Altogether this season, he's made 34 appearances for Nottingham Forest and has been, one of their highlights. I think, Nottingham Forest have had a very hard season, perhaps a lot harder than many people would have expected them to have with the calibre of player they've got. And I certainly think, the constant chopping and changing of managers that they've done this season won't help matters on that one, will it? I mean, it never does. If you're constantly chopping and changing managers, it's not a positive. But Anderson is a quality midfield player. England international, top player. Also played for Newcastle in the past as well. If we break his stats down a little bit further and look at him as a player, he would bring an awful lot to that Liverpool midfield and perhaps bring an element of control that has at times been missing this season. At times we've kind of been played through way too easily. Even on Sunday against Forest played through Liverpool way too easily. And certainly someone like Elliot Anderson coming in to the midfield would help from that aspect. It really genuinely would. The guy's a good all-round player. Stats wise, look, he does a really good job for Liverpool, for Forest, hopefully for Liverpool eventually. But Anderson, for me, would be an excellent buy, an excellent buy for Liverpool FC. Guys, I'd love to know your thoughts on that one. And like I said, 2 homegrown players, 2 English players would certainly add that homegrown element to this squad, I think, which we are at times lacking. You look at the squad often, and with the exception of Ryan Gamo and Curtis Jones, who get game time, you struggle to find any other English players on that park. Joe Gomez, I suppose, another one. But it is a situation that does need to be addressed. Another report obviously that came out yesterday was from Ian Ladyman of the Daily Mail, or Daily Mirror. I can't remember which paper he writes for. I don't really care what rag he writes for. He talks about Arne Slot thinking that obviously that some of the players at Liverpool aren't good enough. Chiesa mentioned as one of those possible names. He also said that Slot doesn't really think that Ngamoa is quite ready for regular football, which, look, I think is absolute rubbish, absolute bollocks. I mean, Ryan Ngamoa did more in that 20 minutes that he was on against Forest on Sunday than Gakpo and Salah did combined. When he came on against Leeds in that dour 0-0 draw, he did more than Gakpo and Gakpo had done in the entire game. Ngamoa is what we need in this team at times. Liverpool lack the ability to do anything in the final third at times. At times we overplay constantly in that final third, and the aim seems to be solely to just keep hold of the ball and not lose. Whereas N'Gamoa provides a directness and attackingness, and this bollocks that, oh, he's 17, 18 years old, he's too young. Absolute rubbish, absolute rubbish. There's players come through that have done and played in those teenage phases of their career. So look, for me, N'Gamoa should be getting more regular first team football. Guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching the Anfield review. If you've got any comments, please drop them, and obviously please like, comment, share and subscribe to the channel.